Are you sick of the traffic, taxes, and crazy home prices? What if I told you there was a place with sunshine, skiing, no state income tax, and homes that feel doable? Reno might be the next move for you in 2025, and in this video, I'm going to break down the top 10 reasons why. If you're new to the channel, my name is David Tully, and I'm your go-to resource for Reno, Sparks, and Northern Nevada real estate. If you're thinking about buying, selling, investing, or relocating to Reno, Nevada, I'd love to help. All my information is down below. I think Reno is an amazing place to raise a family. I myself only have an 18-month-old son, but in a few of the areas I've lived in, it's been an absolute blast. I've lived in the Damani Ranch area and now the Spanish Spring area, and I can see why it's such a good area for families. My wife is actually born and raised in the Reno area. She grew up in the northwest part of Reno and Somerset, and she still loves living in the Reno area. I also have a handful of friends throughout Reno that are born and raised in Reno and are raising families themselves, and they love all these sporting events and parks that we have throughout the area. We also have a ton of family-friendly neighborhoods like Damani Ranch, Double Diamond, Collin Ranch, even the Old Southwest or Midtown areas, and the northwest part of Reno and Somerset, to name a handful of good neighborhoods. Not to mention, all those neighborhoods that I mentioned have some of the top-rated public schools in the area, and they have a lot of family-friendly amenities. Tons of shopping and restaurants close by, beautiful scenic walking trails, and there are over 90 parks alone in just the Reno area. One of the fun things about Reno is we have a ton of family events throughout the year. Some of my favorites are the Reno Balloon Race that goes on at the Rancho San Rafael Park near UNR. I haven't yet taken my son to that, but I do think he would enjoy it. We did take my son to the Reno Dragon Lights Festival last year, and we had an absolute blast, but we did kind of go in the later part of November, and it was pretty damn cold. So I do think we're gonna try and go a little bit earlier this year where it's slightly warmer, but all the dragons, the flowers, the beautiful scenery and lights at the Dragon Lights Festival was absolutely awesome. Another fun event is Food Truck Friday, which I do think comes back next month in May, which is a really family-friendly and fun event that takes place at Idlewild Park. There's a huge grassy area for you to bring a placemat and have a nice picnic with the friends and family, and there are tons of food trucks that have great food and drinks for you to enjoy. Who wouldn't want to save money on taxes? This is why tons of residents, businesses, and corporations are moving to the Reno and Las Vegas areas. This is why our economy and housing market is definitely booming, because of huge tax benefits and no state income tax. Property taxes in the Reno area are also cheaper than California, and our property taxes are not reassessed on sale. Yes, they are reassessed every year based on your cap status, meaning if your property is a primary residence in Washoe County, your property taxes are capped at 3%, as long as you file the document correctly with Washoe County. And if the property is a long-term or a short-term rental, that cap status is gonna be 8% on your property taxes. And what your property taxes are gonna be based off is the original purchase price or the original sales price from when that home was sold. So if you're buying a house that's 5, 10, or even 15 years old, and you compare it to a brand new home at $700,000, and that resale home is $700,000, the resale home is gonna have significantly less in property taxes. Reno is more affordable than most California cities. Yes, Reno is not super cheap and affordable anymore, but compared to a ton of other California cities, we are still quite affordable. Comparing to prices in San Francisco, LA, San Diego, San Jose, or even Daly City, Reno is certainly affordable, even with a median home price around $600,000 to $615,000. But just remember, this is a median home value. You can certainly find still a good amount of homes under the $600,000 price point. And I did a video recently the other day where there was 79 single-family homes under $500,000 with at least 3 bedrooms. So there are still some options, and you can still find some brand new homes in the Reno area under $500,000. And if you're looking for a townhouse in the Reno area, you can still find a townhouse in the area under $500,000 and even under $400,000 in some areas, like Lemon Valley and the Cold Springs areas. All right, let's talk about the weather. If you're looking for a place with 300 plus days of sunshine, all 4 seasons, and amazing weather, Reno might be the perfect fit. Me originally being from Hawaii, I used to be used to hot, humid weather, but after living in Nevada for 14 plus years, I actually prefer the dry weather and the dry heat. And most people agree these days they much prefer the dry weather over the humid weather. So me being from Hawaii, you're probably wondering, how are the winters in Reno? And over the last 4 years, I would say 75% of the winters have been very mild. Typically when we get snow here in the afternoon or evening, by the next morning at 10 or 11 a.m., the roads are typically fairly clear. And 24 hours later, on some days, it might not even look like it snowed the day before. I would say most winter days are going to be anywhere in the 30s to 45 degree range. And yes, we can get a cold front that comes in where the temperatures are in the teens and in the single digits at night, but that typically only lasts a few days or a week at best and is pretty rare. And if it does, like I said, that's a cold front that's coming through most of the West Coast and not just the Reno area. If you're wondering about the summer months and how hot it gets, yes, we can get warm at times, not nearly as hot as Las Vegas. I would know, I lived there for a couple years and I wouldn't do it ever again. But Reno gets up to about 104 to 106 degrees at the most, and that is pretty rare. I would say most summer days are going to be in the upper 80s to mid 90s for most normal summer days. But one thing to keep in mind is that even if we get up to 104 or 106 degree weather, we cool off by about 30 to 35 degrees at night, which by about 7 or 8 p.m., you can already be barbecuing in the backyard. The sun's going down, the temperature's cooling off, and it is a really comfortable time. And some of my favorite seasons in the area are of course going to be spring and the fall months, because just of all the beautiful flowers, trees, and everything just looks beautiful with some amazing scenery in the Reno area. Lake Tahoe is easily one of the biggest benefits to living in northern Nevada, and sure, it's not located directly in the Reno area, but I think most locals and residents would tend to agree with me that Lake Tahoe is easily one of the biggest benefits to living in Reno, Nevada. So one of my favorite things to do at Lake Tahoe is go to some of the beautiful beaches throughout the area. My absolute favorite is Sand Harbor. Sure, it does get busy at times in the summer and fall months, and I do think you need an actual pass where you have to buy it in advance now, so definitely look into that if you want to visit Sand Harbor. I also really like Zephyr Cove, and Round Hill Pines is one of my favorite backup beaches. Another nice one to check out is Kings Beach in the Kings Beach area. There are also going to be a ton of other beaches throughout South Lake and the Incline Village areas. If you also want to go kayaking, hiking, biking, golfing, or even paddleboarding, this is what makes Lake Tahoe so special. It's the perfect place for a summer or winter getaway. Living in the Reno area gives you access to world-class ski resorts. If you want to venture off to areas close in Reno, you can check out places like Mount Rose, which is one of my absolute favorites because it's so close. When I lived in South Reno, I could get to Mount Rose Ski Resort in about 25 minutes, go snowboarding for a few hours, and be back to work in the afternoon. I think that's why some locals absolutely love the Mount Rose area. Some of my other favorites are going to be Heavenly in the South Lake Tahoe area, and another really good one is North Star. There's also a ton of other areas like Sugar Bowl, Palisades, and a ton of other ski resorts throughout the area. If you like skiing or snowboarding or even snowshoeing, you're going to want to check out the Chickadee Ridge area. And another thing that I'm super excited for is the new tubing area that the Mount Rose Ski Resort should be launching later this year, and it's actually going to be the biggest tubing area and facility on the entire West Coast. If you're looking for a city with a thriving job market and a booming economy, Reno might be a great fit, especially if you're in the tech, logistic, or the medical field. There are huge tech companies here like Tesla, Amazon, Google, Panasonic, Polaris, Chewy, and even more. There are also big logistics companies and warehouses like Amazon, Uline, and a ton of other logistics and warehouses are popping up throughout Reno Sparks left and right. If you're in the medical field, I recently saw Renown offering up to $30,000 for specialty nurses and up to $60,000 to $70,000 for doctors. So I think Reno is a good fit for you if you're looking for something in the tech, logistics, or the medical field, but don't get discouraged if you're not in one of those fields, because Reno's economy is booming and so is the housing market, which means tons of corporations, businesses, and people are moving to the area, which then increases jobs throughout the area. So the University of Nevada at Reno is not just well known for its amazing sports programs like baseball, basketball, football, skiing, or even golfing. It's actually a tier 1 research facility with some amazing programs in science, engineering, and great medical programs. What's also nice about UNR is that they have a pipeline into the local community, meaning recent graduates can have an easier time finding a job in the Reno area, which helps out the school and the local job market. Reno is full of heart, culture, and there's pretty much something happening almost every single weekend and throughout the year. Some of my favorite events, and they're not just tourist traps. These are some local events that people love and look forward to throughout the entire year. That's going to be the Hot August Nights, the Rib Cook-Off, Street Vibrations, and even the Reno Rodeo, which is one of the biggest events throughout the Reno area. There are tons of things going on, like I said, almost every single weekend, and some really big events throughout the year. And in July, Reno becomes an art hub for Art Town with tons of music, performances, and pop-up events throughout the city. Outdoor events are also big here in the Reno area, like music performances by the river, the Aloha Festival, and yoga in the park. One of the best things about living in Reno is that you get the comfort and convenience of living in a smaller city while still getting some of the big city perks without actually living in a massive city. You don't get these sky-high prices, taxes, and crowds like much bigger cities like San Francisco, LA, or even Las Vegas, which makes it more convenient. If you're a foodie, you're absolutely gonna love this place because there are some amazing places throughout the Reno area. If you like pizza, you can check out places like Our Town, Kwok's Bistro if you like upscale Chinese, good Thai food at Mudang, or even some good Italian food at Johnny's. Or you can even check out some more upscale places like Liberty or even Centro for a fun midtown or downtown vibe. If you're into breweries, Reno's beer scene is pretty legit. You're gonna wanna check out Revision, 10 Tour, or even The Depot. There's even Parlay 6 Brewing right next to Rum Sugar Lime in the Midtown area. These are going to be typically located in Midtown or downtown, and some are on the outskirts. So Reno nightlife is typically pretty chill and laid back, and you're usually going to end up in the Midtown or the downtown Reno area. And I typically like staying in the Midtown area, although I don't really frequent that area anymore as I am now a family man and have a son, so we don't typically drink or visit the downtown or Midtown areas anymore. But some of my favorites when we do go out or have a nice drink or meal is going to be the Midtown area. Some of my favorite places to go are going to be Rum Sugar Lime, Z-Bar, Noble Pie, or even Pinion. And if you want to get a nice steak, we check out the Biggest Little Steakhouse in the Midtown area. And if you want something a little more fun, you could check out the Lex nightclub at the Grand Sierra Resort. They often have a lot of big name DJs, and they recently had Benny Benassi. Previously, they've had DJ Snake, Chainsmokers, and tons of other big DJs in the Reno area. So if you're thinking about relocating to Reno for a job, to save on taxes, maybe you want to retire, or you just want a more affordable, family-friendly place, I think Reno is an amazing city. If you have any other questions or comments about Reno, please leave them down in the comments below and I'd be happy to answer them. And if you're thinking about buying, selling, investing, or relocating to Reno, I'd love to help. All my information is down below.